But Star Wars didn't come along until the special editions, so it was on my radar, and I think it was the Doritos came with the discs. They had a Star Wars Doritos thing, and I used to fucking love Doritos as a kid. It was in my Christmas, so I was getting these like freaking discs with like Han Solo and Carbonite inside my in my Doritos. Anyway, the merch hit me, the marketing worked, and I think it was my 11th birthday. I had asked my dad for the Star Wars trilogy special editions. So that's the VHS box set. I got the gold one. And I think my birthday was on a Friday or something around there. Anyway, we weren't allowed to, one of the house rules was no video games and no movies until Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. During the week, you're not allowed because they'd lose us and we wouldn't do our homework. So that was the reward. You get to Friday, you can watch Rocky or play your video games. Which is why even now, me and my sister go fucking mental on Fridays. Even though as an actor, today's a Friday, you know that. Like, I've got fuck all to do. I could do what I want. But in my head, when Friday comes along, I'm like, get my tits out. Let's go crazy. Because my parents have conditioned me to think all the best things happen on a Friday. Anyway, I came home from school and put A New Hope in. And
this is your first watch. This is the first time you've seen it.
I did it alone. Yeah, and I did it alone. I just did it in the living room. I was like, here's A New Hope. And I was like 10 or 11. And just like heart palpitations during the Battle of Yavin. And didn't know that Han was going to, I didn't, there wasn't spoilers. It wasn't social media. So like when, as Vader locks on and then, Yahoo! Like as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, I was just like, fucking hell. And then that night, like, again, this isn't binging culture. We're talking about a different time. I was like, another one. So I put Empire in, not knowing, I knew that I'm Your Father, that you couldn't avoid that kind of spoiler.
So you did know that. Okay.
I did know that, but the way, like, I didn't know about Han just being put in carbonite and it just leaves it there. Like, we lost, shit went down. It blew my mind, and then it
did you put
bed?
Oh, so you didn't do Jedi in the same night? So you ended on Empire?
Ended on Empire because of time. Took me like 5 hours and whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was in bed, and then I think it was like 7. I couldn't sleep. Waited, and I think I got up first thing breakfast, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Saturday morning. Jedi went in, and within that space of time, I swear to you, Alex, my life changed. The line, if you look at like influences and diversions, there's where my life would have been if I didn't get that box set from my dad, and where my life is getting it. And it was an overnight obsession. And I didn't know that there were prequels being made because that information was new to. I didn't know that we were going to get 1, 2, and 3. And that was in production at the time because it was around 97, 98. So I'm getting into it and I'm like, I didn't have to wait 30, 20 years or 15 years for Phantom Menace. I'm like, fucking love the original trilogy. All my pocket money went on the action figures and the Power of the Force for action figures. I had the shelf. I was just consuming Star Wars. I was reading the books, every video game. I was just losing my fucking mind. All my homework. It's so funny, dude. Like, it could be geography, and somehow I've linked it to Tatooine. Like, this, I couldn't, it was disgraceful. Like, every IT homework, every art project, every fucking English project, everything just went back there. I couldn't stop. I remember my auntie, who hates me, she thought I was, she still does dislike, but I was never a favorite. And
right.
And she thought I had, like, I was developing weird. She was super concerned because she'd come over and I'd be in the garden air fighting with my Qui-Gon Jinn lights. Like, I just had lightsabers. No one's there. I'm just in the garden. They're like, "Where's Rahul?" And I'm just like, and just learning to twirl. And then, like, now that I'm an actor, I've kind of been like, So it was all good because everyone wonders, why is he so good at fucking sword fighting and shit? And I was like, yeah. But yeah, it was just an overnight obsession, and it became comfort. Everyone has a tough time at school, and I was no exception. And I was miserable. I was miserable socially, and there's a lot of reasons, puberty, all of that stuff. And I'd come home, and whoop, VHS goes on. We're allowed to watch. Now I'm in high school. We're allowed to watch VHS.
Did you have did you have a group of friends at school? Like, were you part of a group who all liked Star Wars though? Because that's a very different thing. They hate it.
We're close to this day. Like the four of us who went to the same primary school, high school, we've stuck together. They weren't fans. They became fans when they were like late teens, like 16, 17, I kind of broke them a bit. And then they were like, all right, let's watch and then they had to watch Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. Not the best, but like now they're fully into it. They watch Mandalorian and they'll text me and stuff. But I was very much on my own as 11-year-old, 12-year-old, where Star Wars was concerned. And
but you did have friends though, because that's the thing, isn't it? Like school can be shitty, but I guess if you've got comrades,
I still had mates that were like, this is fucking geeky. I'd still get bashed for it, but it was from a place of love, and it was still my identity.
Right.
But the career thing was it kind of like infiltrated me, and so I started watching it, and I wanted to be in that world so desperately. Like I'd come home from school, girl I liked, crushed my spirit, or I, got into a fight, or the school's terrible, whatever the fuck happened. And then I'd come home, put the VHS on, and for 2 hours, I'm gone. I'm on the Millennium Falcon. I'm escaping the Empire, whatever. And it just became this like escapism. And I decided, I was like, I want to be in this world. What's the closest to being in it? Oh, well, making it. And then I was like, well, I want to be a part of making something like this. I want people to feel the way I feel now watching it. And that's what led to, that's what started me off with media production. And I wanted to work for ILM, and I was super interested in special effects. And
it sounds like when you just mentioned like Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and I think you said not the best. Is that not? How do you feel about them? Really, is that an understatement? Not the best. I mean, you do, don't you?
I love them.
Yeah,
more than the fucking Shining. No, I do. I love them for their flaws. I like it for the good parts. I love it for its flaws. It's. I was having this conversation recently. If you take the story, if you just look at the outline, it's actually a good fucking story. The execution's a little off, but the story's super interesting, and even the trade disputes are interesting, and the blockades. But
listen, I never really had a problem with the trade disputes and the fact that it's all about like not taxing a planet or at the start. I didn't mind that. And look, I do not hate Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith. Like I was actually genuinely impressed with. I was like, this is incredible. Apart from which I'll never get over.
Terrible.
Yeah,
but it's part of the charm. That's what's happened for me. Yeah, it's become part of the charm. But it's like, so do you not think you've sort of got someone? You've got one of the greatest villains in cinema history in Darth Vader, and in one scene you've robbed him of that legacy, almost or you've done a really good job of trying to, and it didn't have to be like that. It's like you watch Rogue One, you go, fucking hell, he's terrifying. Absolutely, that's possibly one of the scariest Darth Vader scenes I've ever seen. Yeah, ever. Yeah, I got why people were scared of Vader. I never got it even when I watched the originals as a 11-year-old. He wasn't scary to me. That never hit. Rogue One, I was like, oh yeah, I wouldn't want to be trapped in that. You can't. Yeah, that's a beast.
It's weird, isn't it?
That's being trapped with a bear that can force choke you. Rogue One didn't. No, was it robbed? Look, I went through like a whole kind of journey with the prequels, which was I adored them as a kid. I mean, I was watching them when I think they came out, I was 13, 16, 18, so something like that, right? So by the time I was an adult, and I was fully at drama school, I got Revenge of the Sith. So I was a little older and I still had issues with stuff, but it was the right time to watch that one. I was a very emotionally sensitive teenager who, I mean, could have in another world become a fucking incel. The way I was so thin-skinned and sad all the time, and why does no one fancy me? At the time I saw Attack of the Clones, so that shit hit me like a fucking ton of bricks. I was like, I'm haunted by the kiss you should never have given. I would have said shit like that at 14, 15. And Phantom Menace, I was 11, and I just remember me and my sister came out. I think I was 11 or 12. Oh no, maybe I was yeah, I'm fucking up my ages, but I was around that age, 12, 13 or whatever. And I just remember like me and my sister came out of the cinema, my parents picked us up, and we were like, the fight at the end, Darth Maul, lights, who knows what the fuck happened for the first 2 hours. It just ended on this note of just Duel of the Fates in your ears.
Yeah. I mean, I won't argue.
Dizzy.
I won't argue with that. That's the great. That's probably the greatest lightsaber battle in the history of the franchise.
I think and the Empire Strikes Back for the emotional when he first confronts Vader in the carbonite chamber and the lighting, like that's still number one. But Duel of the Fates is just on another level. And I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that clip of Filoni talking about Duel of the Fates?
No. What?
It came about from the Mandalorian Roundtable, and he went, you know why it's called Duel of the Fates, right? Well, George set that up because at that moment there are three storylines. There are three alternate storylines. You've got, and it's about what happens in the future. It's fighting for Anakin's fate. Anakin's fate is decided, and the fate of the galaxy in that fight. If Qui-Gon wins, Anakin ends up with a mentor that is older, more experienced, controlled, wiser. He's going to get the type of attention and care a child going through the trauma that child had been through needs. Probably wouldn't have been so emotionally unstable, probably would have handled things slightly better. We may not have had Darth Vader. If Darth Maul wins, both Jedis get wiped out, possibly Anakin dies. And if Obi-Wan comes out on top, you get a kid who doesn't really respect life forms. I mean, he says it, like he doesn't show respect for Jar Jar. When Qui-Gon goes back to Tatooine, Obi-Wan says, why do I sense we've picked up another pathetic life form? That's Obi-Wan, who begrudgingly trains this kid he doesn't want to train. And that's where we end up with. And in that moment, that's the Duel of the Fates. And Filoni explains that at the roundtable, and I was just like, have we misunderstood George? Because he's a fucking genius. Like, I even got goosebumps telling you that again. But like, yeah, I mean, I am I went through many different. I went through this. Love him as a kid. Love him when I saw him. Almost aged out of them and thought, I'd started to see him, and I was like, this is fucking embarrassing, man. And then came full circle and was like, no, it's okay. Like, you can. I still want to love. I love him for their great part. Like, there's some amazing stuff in there that happens. Some of the best. Some of the best kind of like cinematic moments have happened in that movie. The helmet going on with the hiss and the happens 2 minutes before the no, and that's equally as good as that is bad. Like, it's the high highs and low lows of the prequels. Like, there is so many like peaks and troughs with that trilogy. But one thing that's not spoken about enough, man, is particularly Attack of the Clones. It changed.
This is the one that fascinates me a bit, because I did leave it out of the list earlier, but I mentioned them because Attack of the Clones, I find that close to unwatchable. Like Phantom and Revenge, I don't disagree with you. I think there is a lot to love in them, but Attack of the Clones, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was just like, what is this? What's happened? It's just a sprawling mess of ugliness. I mean, I think that's the thing. It's not like compared to the others. It's quite an ugly film, I thought.
It's definitely aged the worst. I personally felt that the movies got better in order. That was my
really?
feeling. Yeah, because
You think
I'm a
Attack
big
of the
Obi-Wan
Clones is-
fan.
Right.
So I got this whole B-side of just McGregor.
Mm.
You know, going to Camino, and you got the Jango Fett fight with the asteroids. There was a lot more sprinkles of excitement in there. Yeah, but the Anakin Padme stuff really just fucking drags that movie down. But I also find it funny. But Attack of the Clones changed our industry forever. And it wasn't until I was on Bly and I was just sitting around YouTube, and a documentary that I'd seen before, which was on the Attack of the Clones DVD, was on YouTube. And it was George talking about digital filmmaking. And he then details what this camera that I think he developed with Panasonic, because the technology didn't exist. If you watch The Phantom Menace, one scene is digital, and it's when when he's patching up Jake Lloyd's got a cut, and he steals a bit of his blood for the midichlorian test. All of that scene that's shot outside is the first digital scene, on a digital camera, and that was the test. And then Attack of the Clones was we're going to do all of this digital. I'm confident. So Panasonic and George make this camera, and they talk about, well, what's this going to do for our industry? And he talks about Video Village, and you're going to be able to real time watch on giant monitors. We can have multiple monitors for different departments that they're able to get live playback. Okay. We'll be able to edit that night. We can do more takes because we have more storage. We don't have to worry about film. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, so in the old days, prior to George, the only person the director had to trust, maybe one monitor and the cameraman. That meant hair, makeup, stunts. There are so many departments that are completely shut out of the final picture. That's why you get so many goofs in older films and stuff, because no one can watch. Unless you spotted it there and then, that's why that can happen. So Video Village, being able to have live playback on giant monitors, all of that stuff, the amount of time we have on set, how cheap it is to shoot digital as opposed to on film, how it's changed while I was on set on Bly, I really had a moment where I looked around and I was like, wow, Attack of the Clones has influenced my working day. It's unrecognizable. And a lot of this is linked to that thing that he's talking about in 2002 or whatever it was. This is going to change how we make stuff. And I'm working on a set that's living proof of that. That doesn't make the sand scene as rough and coarse and irritating, and it doesn't make it any more easier to watch. But fuck me, what he did for cinema is ridiculous. And The Mandalorian's done the same thing. Jon Favreau and this technology, the volume. Oh, that's what Star Wars is. I get it. It's a vehicle. It takes our industry, it takes us to the next level. Except the sequels, which didn't do any of that.
Yeah, that's a weird one, isn't it? I don't know how I feel. I spent a little bit of time thinking about sort of what really happened there. And I think, it's just a really interesting decision to start a story arc with JJ and then go, Ryan, feel free to just do whatever you like with this. And then JJ, if you could come back and finish it off, taking into account the fact that Ryan hasn't done a lot of what you set up in the first movie. Cool, that's your trilogy right there. It's like, what? How?
When you used to that at school where you fold a picture, page 3, someone draws the head,
consequences, the game. Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, I don't know if you saw this. There was I'm sure this is a thing. Daisy Ridley speaks about Rise of Skywalker. I think she spoke to Josh Gad, and then the internet got very angry when she was like, oh, so when I was doing Rise of Skywalker, was that a good Daisy? That was an unintentional good. Anyway.
That was actually quite good. I was impressed, yeah.
It was the O. I was like, oh. When she was doing Rise of Skywalker, the conversation about her lineage changed during production while filming. She said 1 minute, I was Obi-Wan's granddaughter. Another minute, I'm Palpatine's granddaughter. And it went, and JJ would just be like, so what am I playing today? And at that point, you're a nobody. We'll stick to the Last Jedi. This is happening while it's being shot, dude. And that says everything you need to know about the sequels. So it makes George look like fucking Martin Scorsese, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I didn't love the Last Jedi. I mean, obviously, it was better than the Rise of Skywalker, but it was just from that opening scene where, because I thought Donald Gleason as Hux was genuinely scary in The Force Awakens, and in that opening scene of The Last Jedi, they took a very scary character and turned him into a comic.
Your mama joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the bit where it's the bit that belonged in Guardians of the Galaxy, not a fucking Star Wars movie, where he's like, "Can he hear me? Why can't he hear me? Why is this thing on?" It's like, what is happening? How is this happening?
Yeah, Poe should have done like this in the cockpit. Yeah, you're right. Guardians of the Galaxy, absolutely. They got it. Everything got crossed. Mandalorian, on the other hand, look, Mandalorian has peaks and troughs for sure, and I fucking love that show, and I love everything about it. I love the thing is, you can have bad Star Wars. Of course you can. That happens. If you're a Star Wars fan, you have to get used to the mixed bag, the revels that is Star Wars. You may get the coffee one, right? Because what, you telling me every EU book was a hit? Are you telling me that the Christmas specials and the Ewok movies and the video games we had? Yeah, we had Knights of the Old Republic, but we also had Super Bombad Racing. Like it's a mixed bag, you know. So if you're a Star Wars fan, you got to get used to high highs and low lows. That's it. When you got a franchise that big, it's gonna fucking happen. It's really hard to swallow. And the thing is, as well, you can't be mad at the sequels. If you're, you know, I don't like the sequels. People don't like the prequels. Like, I don't know anyone who if you like all 9, well, holy shit. Like, I have so much respect for you. I feel like you must love everything. Like, nothing is bad. But anyway, yeah, even with The Mandalorian, like, there are episodes but still, it's made with love. And that's the difference. Like, with Star Wars, when Star Wars is bad, as long as it was made with love, I'm okay with it. Like, you tried, and we could tell you still love what you do, and you love this sandbox. You can feel that with the games. You can feel that with some of the books, even not the great ones. But I think the problem with the sequels, where it became very apparent to people, they were like, do you even love this? Do you even care? Yeah. That was the problem, because even you couldn't look, prequels, whether you like them or not, are still word of God. They're biblical. If George said it happened, it fucking happened. If midichlorians are real, then midichlorians are real. If Anakin had a bowl haircut and said yippee, that's what he did. That's word of God. So whether you can dispute it all you want, he said it. It's done. The sequels weren't, and it was a very weird place to be, because the sequels aren't the word of God. They're fan films.
Yeah. I mean, George Lucas does also say on the Phantom Menace making of documentary that comes on the Blu-ray or the DVD, probably both. DVD, He does say what's so exciting about Jar Jar Binks is that we've never had a character this funny in the Star Wars universe. So those are his words. God said that. And
God also said, when he watched it, said, I may have gone too far. Do you remember that? It's the best part of that DVD. They watched the final cut. Rick McCullum and I think Ben Burt's there, and George Lucas, and it rolls and it finishes, and you have their reaction, and he goes, I think I may have gone too far in some place. Yeah.